Well, welcome to the Unstoppable Freedom Podcast. I'm Jimmy Page. The Unstoppable Freedom Alliance is part of a growing movement across America that's fighting for freedom and the values and ideals that this country was founded on. And I'm super excited about our guest today. His name is Tucker Max. Let me tell you a little bit about Tucker. He's written 4 New York Times best-selling books, 3 that hit number 1, and they've sold over 4.5 million copies worldwide. He co-founded Scribe Media, the premier professional publishing company that has helped people like David Goggins, Tiffany Haddish, and Dan Sullivan publish their books. He was nominated to the Time Magazine 100 Most Influential People in 2009, and he received his BA from the University of Chicago in 1998 and his JD from Duke Law School in 2001. That makes you pretty smart, man. I know you currently live in Dripping Springs, Texas with your wife, Veronica, and 4 children. Tucker, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy.
You bet. You bet. This is going to be a hot hour, buddy. I'm just telling you right now. And I always start with one question of all of our guests. Why do you love America? And what do you love most, and why do you love it?
That's such a complicated question. It can be such a complicated question.
Yes.
I will come back. So there's kind of 2 answers. I'm reminded of Winston Churchill when he said, Americans are great. They'll always do the right thing after they've tried everything else, right? Or exhausted every other option.
Very true.
Right, it makes me think or his other quote too, makes me about democracy is a horrible system of governance except for every other one. And so that reminds me of America. It's sort of like there's so many problems with this country and have been for so
Yes.
long, but when you look around at the other options, it's like, okay, well, this is clearly the best, right? And so then the question
Yes.
becomes, well, what makes it the best? Not perfect.
Mm.
I'm not even sure it's great. It's just the best
Mm.
of all the
Yeah.
options, right? So what
Mm.
makes it the best? And I'll say, I come back to one thing. Um, this country, and this is not perfect, but it's the closest.
Mm.
This country, I think, I'm fairly confident, is the only country ever founded on the idea that humans, individual people, are both divine and sovereign, right?
Mm.
Now, is that actually true? Yeah. First of all, no, not all of our founders believed that. Most of them did, especially the influential ones. And even the ones who believed that, like let's say Thomas Jefferson, he had people in literally in bondage on his estate as he made this argument, right? And so,
Yes.
yes, there was a lot of hypocrisy around it at the time. And yes, they were very imperfect about how they instituted it. I can even make the argument, I think it's a really good one, a lot of people have made it, that the Three-Fifths Compromise is the thing that ended up nearly breaking America in the Civil War and has
Mm.
created one of the core issues that's run through the history of America. So yeah, all that's true. But for all of its problems and imperfections, no country has ever been founded on the idea that twofold, that every human is is a spark of a divine spirit and is sovereign in and of itself. Every
Mm.
other country is based on the idea that people serve some other class of people,
Yes.
right? That people exist to serve others. And I mean a king
Mm.
and an aristocracy, not in
That's
an
right.
altruistic Christian sense, right?
Yep.
And so, um, that to me is the reason um, I'm in America.
Mm.
I'm not leaving, and I believe in America. Is that thread is what I believe in,
Mm.
and I believe in it deeply. It is who and what I am and how I spend my time.
Mm. I love that. I mean, I think the way you put it is exactly right. You know, in the document, right, we're all we're made by our creator with certain unalienable rights. I love the fact that rights come from God, not government. So it kind of flipped the whole system upside down. And I think you captured it. It flipped the entire system upside down. Government is designed to secure and protect our rights, not lord over us. And I think
Mm-hmm.
we're perilously close to a system that is about to flip the other way. And I think that's one of the reasons that what you're doing is so compelling to me and to so many others.
Yeah, I think that ship sailed. I think it's already flipped. And right now, honestly, seriously, it's just a battle to see how it all plays out.
Yeah. When I read that in some of the things you've written, some of the videos that you've done, boy, that really caught me off guard to say, when you said that you think the system has already fallen, so to speak. We'll talk a little bit about that. Tell me, let's get right into it on doomer optimism. I love the kind of the paradox of those two things.
Right.
But you're a key figure in this. Tell us what is doomer optimism?
So I did not come up with the term. Some other people did, and it's all in. I have a long website or a long piece about this on my website. But basically, doomer optimism is the idea that things are about to get very, very hard, but if we do our work, everything's going to be okay,
Hmm.
right? And so I can. This was very appealing to me because so many people there's always been gloom and doomers, always, for like
Yes.
as long as we've had people. There have been people who are like, things are terrible, everything's going to go, we're all going to die or whatever, right? and
Yes.
and and then there's always people like, no, no, everything's fine, right? Everything's great, nothing's bad. Neither. There are times when one or the other are exactly right, but rare. It's sort of like broken clocks, right? Like twice a day a broken clock's right. So what I love about that is the recognition of reality, right?
Hmm.
Especially now, things are getting way worse than they were, at least recently.
Yeah.
But then the recognition of that, like, we're not at the end times. This is not the
Hmm.
end of history. We're not the people. Everything, culminated for us. No, we are a set of people in a specific period of time that's going to be, I think, very, very turbulent and
Hmm.
very chaotic, and is going to be a monumental moment in history, the way several other have been, and the way many more will be in the future,
Yeah.
right? But the idea that we can make it through this, just because things are going to be hard, and they will, and just because things will look dark and bleary and be depressing, and they're going to be, they have been, and I think it's going to get worse. It doesn't mean it's
Mhm.
over,
Yeah.
right? Just because things aren't perfect doesn't mean they're over.
That's right. And we don't know when they're going to be over anyway. I mean, as a man of faith, there is no one who knows the last day. We do know that we were made to make a difference, right? And we're made to thrive too, not just survive. We're made to thrive. But I've said this many times, and not everyone agrees with me on this, but this is the optimist in me. There's never been a better time to be alive than right now. Now, not everyone thinks
Well,
that.
hold on, but I think I agree, but that has to be qualified,
Yeah,
right?
okay. How would you
Right
qualify?
now, okay, so just think about that. So there's if you understand history, you can see that, like, history runs cyclically in patterns, right?
Mhm.
Right now, there's, without going too deep into it, there's about anywhere from 4 to 10 different major cycles that are all converging
Mhm.
around this period. Debt cycles, political revolution cycles, war cycles,
Mhm.
famine cycles, climate cycles, right?
Yeah.
And it actually looks like it's going to get colder, not hotter. But anyway, the point is,
Oh, wait, whoa,
the
whoa.
last.
Come on. That's blasphemy. You got to be careful
But
what you're saying.
yeah, right, exactly. I know. God forbid we look at actual evidence.
Oh, don't do
But
that. No facts.
the the last time, if I might be wrong about the details of this, but I think the last time all of these major cycles converged was something like the fall of the Roman Empire. It's so long ago.
Wow.
Lots of different cycles, right? Debt
Mhm.
cycles and war cycles, but very rarely do all of them converge, right?
Mhm.
And what that tells me, among other things, just from what I'm seeing, is like, this is going to be really, really rough,
Yeah.
really rough.
Yes.
Not one or two systems aren't breaking or recalibrating. It's going to be 6 or 10 or 20 or more, right?
Jeez.
So what that tells me is, it's not the best time to be alive. If you want safety, security, stability, calmness, this is the worst time to be alive. The worst, right?
Okay,
But
good point. You're depressing everyone. Come on, man.
no, no, no. But here's the thing. If you want to be a leader,
Mm.
if you want to live a sovereign life, if you want to face challenges, if you want to find and develop your courage, if you want to learn and exercise responsibility, if you want to have opportunities to be a hero and a leader,
Mm.
and all, if you want to exercise the capabilities, and if you want all the great stories that everyone loves, whether it's Lord of the Rings or take your
Yes.
pick, or Gilgamesh, or if
Yeah.
you want to be one of those people from one of those stories, I don't think there has ever been a better time to be alive, ever.
Boy, that
So
is a
yes, I would agree with you in that regard.
that is a great way to qualify it, right? I mean, if you're the type of person that looks at challenges as opportunities, that does put themselves inside of those movies where there's heroic characters and people really making a difference and jumping into the fight, then I think you're right. I think there is a remnant of people like that. And the question is, of course, are we ready for that? Are we up for that challenge? And there's a lot of questions about that. And I think some people are asking, is this movement of the doomer optimist, which I love the dichotomy, right? I love this idea that we can be honest about our society unraveling in all those components, but at the same time, can we be realistic and can we be optimistic at the same time? And then what do you do with that? I love the dichotomy of that. It's funny you mentioned the fall of the Roman Empire. It's relevant today. I've been reading material from Hillsdale College, and they talk about the confluence of all of these different systems that are in chaos right now, and they're all kind of coming
Mhm.
together, and they are comparing it to the fall of the Roman Empire, which should get everyone's attention, right? But let me ask you this: is there a perception that others in this concept of doomer optimism, that this is just all about conspiracy theory, and are we making too much of the problems? Speak to that a little bit.
So, w- yeah, I mean, of course, there are people that believe that. Yeah, if you're invested in the old system, if your
Mm,
identity and your money came from believing a certain set of things, then yeah, of course, you're going to deny anything that challenges that,
mm,
right? I mean, if you're, like just as a basic example, if you are a high-ranking Democratic Party operative, you're going to say no. Joe Biden's a great president, even though to anyone with a brain, like he's a demented senior. Like what's going on? Like, right? Like I mean, no. See, and it's not about. It's not even about trashing Biden. It's just like
no.
like just as an example, right? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, of course, people.
Mm,
But like, I what's so cool about this period of time that we're
mm,
going into? We came out of, I'm 46 years old.
mm,
For most of my life in America, no, all of my life, actually, for me, all of my life, we have lived in what might be the richest, safest, most abundant period in human history. You can at least make that
mm.
argument that
Yes.
it's up there at the very, very
Mm,
top, if it's not the most. And so, like, you could have, for almost my entire life, you can have any ideas you want. If you live in America and are American, you're still going to be safe and you're still going to eat and you're still going to have a job. It doesn't matter how dumb your ideas are or how disconnected
yeah.
from reality they are, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going into a period where that's over, right? Like, there's
Mm,
going to be real consequences to
mm,
the ideas that people have, right?
yeah.
Like, if you think gender doesn't exist, like that didn't matter 10 years ago.
Mm,
Now there's going to be real, and I don't mean political, social
yeah.
consequences, right? Like there's always been political and social consequences to ideas. And that for most
Mhm,
people in America, that's the only way they understand consequences is how
mm,
does this affect my status and rank in the tribe that I want to be in,
mm,
right? Like, it, what's my opinion about masking children? Well, if I'm a Republican and I want to stay in a certain rank in the way I perceive Republicans, then I have this opinion. If I'm a Democrat, I have this. If I'm a Marxist, I have this.
yeah.
No, 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 no. Like all of that stuff. There's most
Mm,
people are still operating in that paradigm,
yeah.
but a small percentage of us have woken up from
Mm,
that and realized that right wing, left wing, it's the same bird, and that bird has been crapping all over the American people for years,
boy,
and
is that
I'm
true.
done with it.
Yes.
And so like the way I think about this is I'm not worried what other people think. I'm going to look at reality and I am going to make my assessment. based on my own knowledge and what I see, and based on listening to the actual practitioners who have knowledge that is proven in the world that works. And I'm
Mm.
going to make my own judgments. And all of those people living in condo high rises in major cities that have no access to water, no owned
Mm.
food, no owned power, no methods of self defense, we're
Mm.
going to see who's going to make it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like,
Yes.
I don't care about
Yes.
arguing
Yeah.
with them. I am
Exactly.
too busy, literally, like I came in from I'm building a chicken coop. We have 23 sheep showing up next week. Like, I'm mending the fences. Like, I'm too busy building my world to worry about what those clowns think. And you know
Yeah.
what? They might be right. I
Yeah.
could be
Sure.
wrong. It is
Yeah.
entirely possible that I am getting this wrong, right?
Mhm.
And if I'm wrong, and let's say this is just a minor hiccup, and the world's actually on a great trajectory, and things aren't about to get hard, and their ideas about social political stuff and all that other stuff are more right than mine, or that
Yeah.
they more adhere to reality than mine do. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll take my lumps. I'll swallow. Like, okay, yeah, I'll swallow my pride. Be like, I was wrong about some stuff, but here's the thing.
Mm.
Even if I'm wrong about the way the world is going, in 5 years, I'm going to be on a big ranch in
Mm.
Dripping Springs, where most of the food I eat it comes from here. Almost all of the meat and most of the vegetables come from here, and I live an amazing life that my kids love, my family
Mm.
loves, my wife loves. I will have spent way too much money on defense and security stuff, right? So I will have
Yeah.
wasted some money. Okay, fine, but it was sort of like insurance, and I'm like, okay, well, it just didn't pan
Yeah.
out, and that's fine. It's actually good. I'm glad I didn't have to shoot
Yeah.
off thousands of rounds of ammo and protecting my ranch.
That
That's
would
a
be a bad
benefit,
day.
right? That would be
Yep.
great. And like, I'm gonna live in a far more sovereign, connected, healthy life.
Mm.
That's the downside. The
Yeah.
upside, in a worst case scenario, is that we're probably gonna make it,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of
Right.
other people, unfortunately, and I'm definitely not wishing ill on them, but a lot of people who are thinking a lot of things right now that are disconnected from reality, they're going to have
Yeah.
to see. We're going to both see. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like this approach, right? Because either way, you win, right? And in the end, too, you'll be in a position where you can actually help other people, hopefully. And so let me ask you this, because I love this, and I think a lot of people are just getting introduced to this idea that not that things are bad, because I think everybody can look logically and say, "Wow, things are not as good as they used to be." Um,
Right.
you know, at least if they're being intellectually honest, right?
Right. Of course.
A lot of people are concerned, very concerned about what's happening, and this is really the an opportunity to see ahead and say, "Hey, the future could be bad. It could be dark." There's a lot of people that have designs on the future. Is part of this connected to the World Economic Forum? Is part of this connected to the idea of the Great Reset? We keep hearing about those terms. I'm neck deep in those. Is this part of what is kind of creating your vision for the future, what you think is coming?
Um, all right. So, Jimmy, if you want to go deep into who's causing what issues, I'm probably not the best guest, right? So, like, I can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But like people like James Lindsay and
Yeah.
Chris Rufo and people like that are really, really, and they've spent a lot of time and effort becoming experts on that. And if
Yeah.
you want to talk to someone, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to avoid the question. I'm just like,
No.
uh, here,
And
yes.
let's stick to
So the
your
whole,
expertise. Yeah. Let's
okay,
stick to
right.
you because
So no, but here, but let me tell you why,
mm,
right? So I have done, and I've spent enough time around people like that, and I've done enough research to realize, and I understand the world enough to realize, like, all right, uh, uh, things are not. This isn't to me. I don't think this is what's happened to me. Is like the light. I think it's like the light rainstorm that hits the coast before the hurricane comes,
mm,
right? I could be wrong. It might just be a light
great.
rainstorm. A lot of people who don't believe this want you to they'll give me more evidence. What about this and this and this?
Uh-huh.
And I always ask them, what evidence would convince you? Tell me, right?
Mm.
Because most people aren't actually looking for evidence. Most people have made a decision emotionally about what they're gonna believe, and then they try and find evidence to support that, right?
Mm.
And
Yep.
and, and to be totally straight, I'm in the same boat, right? Like I have seen and felt enough where I'm pretty sure this is gonna happen, right?
Hmm.
And like now, granted, a lot of things could change, and I might change my mind in the future, right? But right
Sure.
now, this is what I believe. Yeah, I mean, Great Reset. Yeah, World Economic
Yeah.
Forum. Yeah, of course they're clowns, and of course they're horrible, horrible, tyrannical authoritarians who
Mm.
quite literally want to kill off a large portion of the population. And if you don't believe that, go Google the videos by Yuval Harari where he says talks about useless humans, or Bill Gates talks about useless eaters, or all of that sort of stuff. They're demons,
Yes.
and I mean that metaphorically and
Hmm.
almost literally. Yeah, dude. But I
Yeah.
don't need to like. I'm not one of those people. Like, oh, I read the whole book, and I
Uh-huh.
read this, and I read that, and here's the detailed. Like, I just need to know a few things, and I've
Yes.
seen like I need 8 pieces of evidence, and I've gotten 80. I'm
Yeah.
past collecting more evidence about
Yes.
that. I
Yes.
am on how do I get ready?
What do
That's
we do about it?
all I got.
Yes.
What do I have to do? Two things, really. I have two goals. How do I
Mm.
get ready for the turbulence coming, the
Mhm.
hurricane coming? Number
Yes.
one. Number two, how to like withstanding the hurricane, but then thriving after it passes,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
like I don't think we're in end times. I'm not even sure end times exists. But if it did, I don't think we're here. And
Mhm.
whatever hurricane comes, whatever disasters or set of disasters come, they're gonna end,
Yep.
right? And I want to make sure me and my family and my community and the people I care about are set up to thrive afterwards,
Yes.
whatever that means,
Yes.
right?
I
So
love
that
that.
is where quite literally 100% of my attention is. It's sort of like I don't
Yes.
need more evidence, but
Yeah.
it's like you
Yeah.
break your arm and you got
Yeah.
to examine it for a while. Is it actually broken? Once you know it's broken, stop messing with the bones.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Exactly.
I don't need to hit it again,
Yeah.
feel more pain. Oh yeah, see it's broken. It's
Oh
broken
yeah.
again. No, no, no. I
Yes.
know it's broken. What's next?
Yes. I have a perfect example of this. A couple weeks ago, I took my daughter skiing up here in the Colorado mountains. She was having a blast, and all of a sudden, I get this call from her friend that she had been hurt. And of course, the ski patrol comes, pulls her off the mountain, and I was discussing with the EMTs. What are we doing next? And I didn't need any more evidence that her leg was hurt. We knew it. I'm like, okay, listen, I don't need anything else. Let's deal with
Yeah,
reality. So I'm with
yeah,
you on that. And I think, one of the cool things is about what you're doing is you've got this singular focus about the time to prepare for a crisis is not in the crisis, right?
yeah.
It's in advance of the crisis. And I think we just learned that with respect to COVID. And whether you believe it was a serious pandemic or not is relatively irrelevant because of the response to it certainly created enough damage for all of us. But the truth was, if you were going to the store to prepare for that mess, you found empty shelves. If you were going, trying to prepare medically to protect your family or get in shape, if you're not in shape, because we knew that young, healthy people are not at risk. But if you're unhealthy, it's too late. What do you do now? So I love what you're
Yeah.
saying. The time to prepare for the crisis is before the crisis hits. So let's talk a little bit about this. First of all, I would love our audience to know, just sketch out for us, kind of at a high level, how you got here. What were the handful of events that happened over the last couple of years where you said, man, bad things are going to happen and I got to get ready?
Yeah, like man. I mean, just everything that happened in the last 2 years. Like, if none of that woke you up, man, I don't know what to say. Like the
So
the
true.
big things. Like, okay, so the major things.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I'm not sure the moment I woke up during COVID. It was sometime April, May of 2020 when I'm like, none of this makes sense. This is all bullshit. And then
Yes.
it's like it got more and more, and it became more obvious. The thing that really woke me up, because you said earlier you were kind of shocked that I make the argument that I think the American Republic has already fallen,
Mm,
right?
yes.
The moment that woke me up to that was January 6th. And it's funny because so many people are like, oh, yeah, right, because there was an insurrection. It's like, no, a bunch of drunken buffoons in buffalo costumes are not an insurrection. That's just nonsense. Like, that is patently obvious nonsense.
Yes.
Watch any of the video, like any of it, and you
Yes.
know that's not that a riot, maybe a protest gone a little wrong, sure, right? Some people being violent, yeah, totally, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't even it's not even in the universe of insurrection. Like, that's so preposterous, right?
Unless you
And so I
redefine
know media.
insurrection. I mean, if you redefine
Well,
insurrection, it could be
obviously, right,
anything,
right,
you
of
know.
course.
Yeah.
Well, if words have meaning, then
Yeah,
it's not an insurrection. So,
exactly.
like, I watched a lot of the feeds live, and then I know media really well. 20 years in media, I'm very,
Mhm.
very good at it. I can usually tell you what's going, or at least I can tell you a lot of facts, not based on any of the facts, but based on what media does, right?
Mhm.
And so, and then I watched the corporate media, MSNBC, CNN, like the dominant corporate media craft a narrative that was quite literally preposterous,
Yeah.
like patently, observably wrong, and all aligned in one direction at once. And by the way, we
Mhm.
just seen this in the summer of 2020 in the BLM riots, right? Like,
Yep.
like the
Yep.
iconic picture of the CNN anchor or the CNN
Oh,
field reporter in front of a fire saying mostly peaceful protests, right? So we'd
yes.
seen this already. And that's when I knew, I'm like, oh man, they're trying to create a false flag to, oh my God.
Mhm.
And then it was like, it's all came to me at once, right? And I was like, holy, the republic has already fallen. I don't
Yeah.
know when, and I don't know how, but it's gone. Right? The institutions,
Mm.
it to the extent that the American institutions were ever run by adults who actually were responsible and cared about America, like, because you can make an argument that hasn't been true for a long time.
Mm.
So I don't know when
Yep.
that shift happened, but it hit me in my gut and deep in my soul on January 6th, 2021, that
Mhm.
it's time to abandon ship. It's time
Mm.
to go. And I don't mean leave America. I
Yeah.
mean understand that those institutions are now completely infected by people who are at best don't care about you, at worst are trying to kill you,
Mm.
right? And,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, all right, so what do I do now, right? And it
Yeah.
was like 3 days. It was really hard. Like, I was a complete ass to be around. My wife was like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I'm like, "I don't know." I'm yelling at her, the kids. It was like, like, it was awful. And then I realized that, and it was like, oh, I was grieving
Mm.
what I thought America was, or
Mm.
maybe what it used to be. I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to, because there's plenty of
Yeah.
people. Oh, it's been like that forever, and this and that. Okay, fine. But like, I got it on that day,
Yeah.
and that was when it was literally 2 weeks later we made the decision to move out of all. We lived in Austin, Texas, to sell our house. Sold it in March, and it got land. And then now, I mean, like, dude, I don't know if you can hear, the electricians are here. Like, we're putting in all, like, I mean, we're building a serious, not a bug out ranch. I hate
Yeah.
that term, because the
Mm.
idea of bugging out, to
Yeah.
me, is not only does it not work, you don't. Maybe you can survive nuclear war by going into a bunker for a week, right? You
Mhm.
cannot survive what's coming going into a bunker for a week or a month or a year. And beyond that, that's not living,
Yeah.
right? That's being essentially in a coma, and that
Mm.
doesn't work, right? So
And
so
you're
for
not going
me,
to emerge on the other side
no,
in a position to thrive again. And really,
exactly.
we're created to thrive. We're created to flourish. I mean, our life has meaning and purpose. You kind of started there by saying we have divine nature, divine potential. And I think that's the point, right? We're to live our life in such a way that makes a difference. So you can't just, exit society and hope it all blows over.
Yeah. So exactly. So the thing that I realized I came to is, all right, how do I become sovereign? Right? And
Mhm.
not like crazy, like, I'm gonna have an island to be my own country. Like,
Yeah.
there are phases, right? And by
Yeah.
sovereign, I mean, how can I exist independently of the um, co-opted, destructive institutions that are essentially, and I mean this in some ways figuratively, in other ways literally, trying to kill me and other people, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, the best way to do that, in the most general sense, is own your sources of food, water, energy,
Mm.
right? And then be able to protect yourself in them,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the thing that over encompasses all of that is you aren't doing this alone,
Yeah.
right? That you have to be in a community of people, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of ways to define community. So I'm not like I don't mean
Hmm.
like a commune or a
Yeah.
cult or anything nonsense. Like there's 100 ways to define community, and there's 100 ways to make community work. But you got to be in a community of people who are basically aligned with you on being as sovereign as possible,
Hmm.
right?
Yep. All
It
right. So
doesn't
wait
mean
a minute. Let
overthrowing
me
the
interrupt you.
government or any nonsense like that. Yeah,
Let me
yeah. Sorry.
interrupt you because I'm going to dig hard into that. Okay. But
Let's
I
do it.
have a couple things I want to do before then, right? Because what I'm trying to do also is help our audience progress with you to get to the place where they know that, oh wow, I need to do something. Because
Yeah,
some, we've got a spectrum of people, some are bought in and are going, all right, tell me what to do. But there are some people that go, well, I get it, but did you you went through some changes in the way you saw things, right? In your
yeah,
basic assumptions, your mindset. And I think that in part of this is people do have to see things differently in order to draw a different conclusion. What were some of the mindset shifts that you had to go through? Help us understand
yeah.
that because I think it's going to help people get there.
Right.
Tell
So,
me about
great question. Great question. I wrote about these extensively in the piece I wrote about doom or optimism. But
that.
some of the major ones, the first one, some of these are going to sound obvious to people who maybe get it, but the ones who haven't, like it's funny as you progress in the stages, you almost forget what it's like to be in the prior stages, right? And so it's a great question. The first thing I had to accept was that this was possible, or this was happening, right? I had to accept, okay, this is happening. Like things that I thought at some point or felt were impossible are now
Mm,
not just possible but happening,
mm,
right? Like it seemed unthinkable to me that that a sitting president could be kicked off the main communication platform he uses while he was in office.
yeah.
And dude, don't get me wrong, I can't stand Trump. I am
And
not a
yeah,
Trump fan at all, but
yeah.
okay, like that is, hey, don't give me the libertarian bullshit. Private, but shut up. That is
Yeah.
a town square.
Yes.
If we have a president and if
Mm,
we have a government that is supposedly supposed to represent us, deplatforming him is an attack on that government and that
mm.
nation, period.
Wow.
Right? And like, it's like, that seemed unthinkable to me. It's like, okay, well, this is where we are now. Accepting what reality is, even though I didn't want this to be true. This isn't what. Not like I'm like, oh yeah, pretty excited that that the republic is falling. It's, no, I'm
Yeah.
not. Like as critical as me and a lot of other people can be about America,
Yeah.
like I'm not a fan of like, oh, let's break the country. No, of course not, right?
Right.
So first, believing what you see,
Yeah.
then second,
Oh, and by the way, on that front, right? By the way, I don't care what political party was silenced. We
totally,
in America, the leadership can't be silenced. In fact, we're seeing that silencing right happen across the spectrum now. It's not just our political leaders; it's our medical leaders. It's leaders in every single industry, whether it's education or medicine or politics. We are able
yes,
to systematically shut down dissenting opinions
yes,
overnight.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Like I mean, I can in my lifetime, I remember when the left were the holders of the torch of I may fully disagree with you, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. To
Yes.
shut them down and take them off of all financial and social and digital platforms. The
Yeah.
same people. It's mind blowing to me, right? Like
I know.
when I was coming up as a writer and writing stuff about being drunk and being an idiot and all that stuff, it was the bad guys, and when I say quote bad guys, the
Mhm.
ones who are trying to oppress people and
Mm.
take away rights and shut things down were almost all on the right, and
Gosh,
now they have
crazy.
almost all shifted to the left. It's insane. And like I haven't changed. I've grown, matured, etc. My views on
Well,
this stuff.
listen, we need to bring your wife on to determine whether you've grown and matured. I mean, there you
Well, Well, I started at such a low level of maturity that it's really easy for me to grow a lot. You know, it's sort of like
Yes,
my
perfect.
startup tripled in size. It's like, well, you sold $10 last month and 30 this month, so it's like,
Way to
yeah, you
go.
tripled in size.
I'm proud of you.
But like I haven't like my views about free speech have not changed in 46 years.
That's right.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, exactly. So like even
Yes.
Bill Maher, who's as left as it gets, he had a big video about this. And it's like, I didn't leave the left left me, right? Okay. So the
Interesting.
first thing is recognizing and believing the reality that you see in front of you, right? And yeah, one or two things, but now after 2.5 years of this, it's like, okay, you wake up or don't. Like if you're not awake at some point right now, then you're just stuck in an identity that you're refusing to let go of. Okay, fine. Then you're just not going to make it. It's not my. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
wake anyone else up anymore.
Yep.
My only goal is to help those who are either awake, fully awake, or trying to wake up,
Yeah.
get better. Right. So that's number one.
Great.
Number two, and this is a hard one. This one I thought I did pre-COVID, and I realized I did not. Take full and complete ownership and responsibility for myself and my life. Not a little bit, not most responsibility. I had to sit there and realize no one's coming to save me.
Yes.
And I'm a pretty independent dude. I'm a pretty, like I've built companies. I've done all these crazy things that are like really hard to do and impossible to do. I've invented literary genres. I've done all these things and I still didn't realize how much, at least unconsciously, I relied on, the government will do that, or someone will do that.
Yeah.
I had a lot of that. I don't want to call it weakness, but I had a lot of that victim mindset.
Yeah.
Like that is victim mindset at its
Yeah.
core. And even I had that in me, man. I thought I had rooted all of it out, and I had not. There might even still be a little bit like there in me, because there's still times
Yeah.
where I'm like, man, can't someone else do? No, they can't. Yeah, now I
Yeah.
can call people, I can hire people. It's not like I can't have help. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
But if it's around my life, it
Yeah.
is my responsibility, period, full stop.
And that
Right?
is a tough one. That's a tough one, especially today, because we have educated into entitlement. We have brainwashed into this entitlement. We've handed out thousands of dollars worth of checks to do nothing. And
Thousands,
I don't,
trillions.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I can't even get my head around the numbers. And so we've got this generation, and I think this idea that you want someone to save you, I think there's something about that that's attractive, because
Oh,
you
it's
get worn
seductive.
out. It's seductive.
Oh, it's
You're
so
worn out.
seductive.
You get tired. But what you're talking about is saying, no one's coming. And I've said this multiple times over the last 6 months. No one is coming to rescue you. And by the way, you are not a sitting duck. There is plenty of stuff that you can do to take control of your situation. But I love that. Take full and complete ownership. Hey, thanks for listening to part 1 of this 2-part podcast with Tucker Max. It's time to take full and complete ownership and responsibility for your life. Make sure to tune in next week for part 2 with specific steps to take to get prepared for life's disruptions.